I gotta wear the headphones. I gotta hear. We gotta get you a pair of headphones. I think it makes a difference.
Yeah,
because you could really. I don't know. For some reason, it makes it funnier too, because it almost like you're partaking in the recording, but you're also like listening to it at the same time. Like you're almost being entertained.
Yeah, you have a better sense of the finished product.
Yes,
I can tell just from like hearing like with the like testing levels and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's sorry, I was looking at I was panically looking at the batteries, but we're good to go.
The battery craps out when we start.
That's the one downside of this particular. Like this is remember that old janky fucking mixer setup we used to have?
Yes.
This is 30, 40, 50, 100 times better than that. The one issue is that it goes off of 2 AA batteries, and man, does this thing like to eat those up.
Yeah. Also,
it seems like even like if we don't use this for a few months, then we break it out, all of a sudden the batteries that were previously in it are now dead.
Yeah.
I guess that just has some low level of power suck even when it's not doing anything.
Yeah. It's a hungry monster.
I don't understand technology at that level. Maybe that's like something really obvious that always happens to batteries. I'm just unaware of it.
I mean, probably to some extent, but I don't think that badly.
Well, I was thinking as I was showering, and you were on your way over here, what we ought to discuss today, and I realized, first of all, that I was listening back to the last one. I feel markedly less anxious about this recording than I did the last one, just because I felt like the last time that so much time had passed and so much had happened. There's a lot of pressure to sort of like summarize what you've learned and what you've done over these past few months. And I kind of just gave into it. Was good. I'm like satisfied with the way everything went, but I realize now that I was letting perfect be the enemy of good, so to speak. In this episode, the heart rate's a little. Not that I was ever nervous. I mean, we're in my own house, and if need be, I can just delete the shit out of this, so I'm not all that nervous.
Yeah.
But
you want to put out decent product.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny, but last time we started recording, and then I realized I didn't put an SD card in here. So the first like 20 minutes of our initial attempt was just lost to the world, and it was probably good.
Right.
Because I re-listened to it, and I was coming off a little strong. I was just like, here's what's happened. This happened, and then that happened, and then I learned this.
And then I wrote a spaceship, and then there was a submarine, and then we had a dog.
Yeah, that's sort of what it was. But maybe it was a blessing in disguise that we lost that recording due to technical difficulties. Also, I do something weird with my eyebrow. I've never noticed that until I rewatched last week's episode.
What is the something weird with your
eyebrow?
eyebrow?
Like the people's eyebrow. Like every now and again was my eyebrow.
Like
my left
just like
eyebrow.
casually in conversation?
Yeah,
or
like I'll just like, I don't know what I was doing last week. If it was just a tick I had developed, that particular, I'd never seen it before, but I had a very active left eyebrow last week. I don't know what that was about.
Well, hopefully it's not signs of a stroke.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I used to black out a lot when I drank, so maybe some brain cells are a bit twisted still.
Yeah. Okay.
But to finish my shower musings, fights. We have had a lot. At some level, this is a podcast about fights. Not entirely or even really remotely at points, but sometimes when we want it to be.
When it matters. Yes.
And it certainly matters. We've seen, just like a lot of things have happened in my life that I tried to recap. Maybe it's a good thing that we didn't dive. I tried to say both at the same time. Too deeply into the fights last time we recorded, because there's been a lot. I mean, we've seen Connor's return.
Yeah.
We've seen Jon Jones probably lose. We've seen Tyson Fury just end the career of Deontay Wilder, even though he exercised his automatic rematch clause. We can discuss that further as to whether or not. I still think he's going to get paid to walk away. I don't think they want to make that fight.
Yeah, no, there's no way Deontay Wilder comes back in like that. I would almost say with Deontay Wilder, if he were to fight Tyson Fury again, and if he were to go in a little bit lighter, he would maybe stand a little bit of a chance, because I think carrying around that extra weight worked against him a little bit. But then again,
don't wear the Sauron costume to the ring.
But even then, like, how is he? Like, do you really want to be that much lighter than a guy who's 270?
Yeah, I don't think it sells particularly well, and that's what this all boils down to. It looks like we're starting off with the Wilder Fury talk here. But, yeah, I don't think that is really all that intriguing of a rematch. I mean, at this point, they've fought for what? 12 rounds the first fight, and he finished him in the 7th this time around.
Yes.
So they fought 19 rounds. Tyson Fury has won 18 of them.
Yeah.
And really, outside of that huge knockdown, I think it was it in the last round of the last fight? He knocked him down on the 12th, I think. I think it was.
Think so. Yeah, it was the 11th or 12th. It was close. It was the 12th because he came back and that started actually laying into him when he got back up off the mat.
Well, he had 2 knockdowns in the first fight. The first was fairly. I mean, it was certainly a hell of a punch, and it was Fury was definitely shook from it.
Yeah.
But it was a fairly standard boxing knockdown. Like it wasn't that last one was a KO.
That last one.
Yeah, and see that's the thing though. Deontay Wilder is always going to be successful at the box office because he has that bomb. He has that ultimate wild card. So even though Tyson Fury is 10 times the technical boxer that Wilder is, he's got that trump card. Now, I still don't think, again, 17 rounds would say, because he had the 2 knockdowns and one earlier in the first fight. So he's won 17 of 19 rounds very, very handily. And outside of those 2 knockdowns, it really hasn't been a competitive bout, so I just don't think it sells.
No.
I think Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury is the fight, and I think that they'll make so much money, especially in the UK, off of that fight that they will be happy to pay Deontay Wilder to just shut up and go away.
Yeah. I have a feeling we're probably going to be waiting for Wilder Joshua Fury Joshua for a while. I don't know that that's happening anytime within the next year.
Well, Joshua is fighting Kubrat Pulev in, I think, July.
I don't even know who that is.
He's one of the many competitive Russians in the heavyweight division.
Who's because I hear his name thrown out there a lot. I mix it up with a million other Russian Eastern European names. The guy who went up from cruiserweight. He was he's one of the greatest cruiserweights ever, and he just jumped up to heavyweight.
Was it Adamek? Tomasz Adamek?
No, I want to say it's like Usyk or something like that.
Oh yeah, I think it might be. I have my phone over there because I didn't want to be disturbed. Damn it! But now I need to be disturbed. Speaking of disturbed, you want to do your there you go.
My vocal warm-ups for the session today.
Yeah, and I'm kind of intrigued to see where Andy Ruiz. I wouldn't hate a world where the Wilder fights Ruiz because that sort of is both. That's both guys' calling card. Is they just they're most now Ruiz less so than Wilder, but I mean Ruiz definitely demonstrated that he's got single shot power against Joshua. So I mean if you can finish Joshua, you can finish anybody. So I think that would be
I still I hesitate to say he truly finished Joshua.
Yeah, you think
I think Joshua just cut he definitely took it to him, and Joshua definitely it threw off his whole game plan. But the whole thing with the mouth guard and the ref waving off the fight at that, I really think it was just Joshua not paying attention. I don't think he was as fucked up as people, because his reaction to the fight getting called and his you look at his expression, he still seems a lot more with it than a guy who's really getting fucked up.
Yeah, I think that was almost like a fatigue finish.
Yeah, it was just kind of he knew he was behind and he didn't want to lose on points, so he would rather just go out. Go out early and then let's come back and revisit this.
Yeah, I think Joshua's in a weird career state right now too, just because I don't know. I feel like he lost. It's different. He has already dealt with what Wilder will now have to deal with after that fight, because not only is their shine gone, but they got handled.
Yeah. It's
different if you lose, let's say Wilder lost the first Fury fight. That's a loss you can get away with and not have this sort of blemish and questioning of your previous untouchability.
Yeah, because people would still come back to those 2 knockdowns. Even if the judge, which the judges very well could have scored it against him completely.
Yeah.
But they didn't. But people would still look at those 2 knockdowns and say, well, he lost the first time, but if he comes in, if they fight again, if that fight had gone a few extra rounds, that he would have gotten it.
Speaking of judges, let's use that as a little jumping point to our next discussion, which is probably the one that I'm most passionate about. Jon fucking Jones lost to Dominic Reyes. Now, I'm not here to say Dominic Reyes took it to him. I'm not here to say that Dominic Reyes is, twice the fighter Jon Jones is. It was a close fight. But I don't think there's a world where you can argue that Jon Jones... First of all, the judging was patently horrific. I think it was the first round that Dominic Reyes had some crazy statistic in terms of outstriking Jones.
Really?
Yeah.
It's the one big fight of these ones we're going to talk about I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, it's worth a watch, and unfortunately it's too late. But I almost wish I would tell you nothing about this fight, and just to see you're completely. I mean, you're never going to be unbiased. You're always going to, I'm a little bit unbiased. I don't particularly enjoy Jon Jones. I think I just want him to lose, but at the same time, I'm tuning in. I have that Floyd Mayweather effect now.
Yeah.
With Jon Jones, I'm tuning in mostly to see him lose.
Yeah.
And to root for him to fail.
Yeah. I'm the same way, but I also know he is one of the greatest talents the sport has ever seen.
The greatest. I think it's safe.
It's the Floyd Mayweather effect.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say he is the greatest mixed martial arts fighter of all time. He is just. There's something peculiar about him. That's the one word I would use to describe. First of all, his fight IQ is off the charts.
Yeah,
people don't give him credit for it because he's made questionable decisions out of the ring or out of the octagon, I should say. But man, that guy is really, really headstrong when it comes to game planning. He's really, really good in terms of executing the game plan. He's very George St. Pierre-ish.
Yeah.
He finds a way that he thinks he can beat a guy, and he sticks to that game plan. He does not deviate from that path. He's very disciplined.
Yeah.
And he's surrounded by a great team, too. I mean, Greg Jackson, as far as I understand, that's what he calls himself. He doesn't even necessarily call himself a coach. He calls himself a strategist.
Yeah.
That is his game plan, is I am going to be Winklejohn's the striking coach. I'm sure they have a jiu-jitsu coach on site and wrestling coach. I think he works with Izzy. He's a you see him in the UFC those lead up shows, the 24/7s or whatever they call them. You see him there all the time. He's a wrestling coach for a lot of different UFC fighters. But he's got his whole team, but Jackson is the one guy who says, I am simply going to work on the game plan. He's the head coach in terms of NFL terms, right?
Yeah.
He's got his coordinators and his position coaches, and you got a running backs coach, and you've got an offensive coordinator, so on and so forth. But one guy has to be in charge of the game plan, and that's Greg Jackson. It seems like they've found a really good working relationship there because, shit, it hasn't failed.
Yeah.
I mean, Reyes is just a little bit more of Jon Jones right now than even Jon Jones is. He's just a little bit more explosive.
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit younger, a little bit more resilient. Not resilient, that's a bad word. I don't know. He was a little bit more active, and he just didn't give a fuck. I don't think
he is the younger man. He did to Jon Jones what Jon Jones has done to everybody else he's ever fought, is just study the tape, figure out where the guy's holes are. It just happens when you're a guy who adapts like that. It's a lot harder to make that matchup and make that prediction of where the hole's going to be.
Well, and there's that old adage, right, that you need to beat the champion. And I can certainly see that. I think in just very pure analytical terms, Reyes won the fight because he won more rounds. And the person who wins the majority of the rounds wins the fight.
Yeah.
Them's be the rules, right?
Yeah.
But beyond
in a perfect world.
But beyond that, I do kind of see, especially a long-standing dominant champion like Jones, you're going to have to send him out on his shield.
Yes.
I get that. And in a weird way, I almost agree with it. I think you saw even last night with where what's today, the 7th? March 7th? Is that today? Sunday, March 7th?
The 7th? Yes, I believe so. Today's the 8th. We fucked up.
Okay.
Whatever. It's the 8th. It's International Women's Day. We need to be on the ball.
All right. Well, speaking of International Women's Day, we saw two badass women beat the ever-living shit out of each other last night.
Yes, they did.
With Zhang Weili versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk, who unfortunately, good God, that woman's... I've never been as... And I don't mean to say this in any way, shape, or form. I was repulsed simply by her injuries, not by her. She's perfectly...
She persevered. She kept going. She never went down. There were definitely opportunities where she could have just gone back to her corner and be like, "Oh, this is bad. I gotta stop," and nobody would have faulted her.
No words were necessary. You could have just pointed at your head and be like, "No mas, Tomas."
It was like the third round where that started, right?
I think so.
The third round, her forehead just started swelling. It started like the middle of her forehead, and then like it blew up about like an inch or two off her face, and then it just started shifting off to the side. Like her face started. It's like for anybody who's played Mario 64. In the beginning of the game, when you could just kind of click and drag on Mario's face, it looked like somebody did that to her.
Poor girl. Can we take a moment to think about what her day is like today?
Oh my God, just a lot of ice.
Oh,
just a lot of ice and like, sleeping.
You really gotta love what you do, man, because she mutilated herself in there last night for our entertainment. So in a strange way, I guess we should say thank you because that was. I mean, and Zhang Weili did not look like she was having a great fucking day either after that fight. She definitely took a beating there. She was her face was just bleeding towards the end there. Oh yeah, and her eyes were swollen shut.
Just blood on both sides.
Yeah, those girls, man. First of all, the technique that they demonstrated was just it was like you were watching a kickboxing clinic. Even like the rotation of their hips, the pivoting of their feet when they kicked, the timing of their shots, super technical.
Yeah.
You know what my one critique is on that fight, though? It seems like sometimes in championship fights, kickboxing matches break out.
Yeah.
I'm a true fan of MMA. Like, I want to see who is the better competitor in all facets of the fight. I want to see it go to the clinch. I want to see it up against the cage. I want to see a takedown. I want to see some groundwork. I want to see some jiu-jitsu. I want to see all of those elements, play a role in the fight. So while that was an incredible fight, it was basically a boxing match.
Yeah.
Or, a kickboxing match.
Well, Weili did get she got a couple takedowns in there. She wasn't able to do a whole lot with it, but I remember at one point she'd scooped like Joanna by like the leg and head for a minute, like she's trying to pull something off with it, but she couldn't hold on to her.
But man, I just can't imagine Joanna and Jacek's day today. Yeah. Like that's just you gotta love what you do, man, and like that fight was proof to me that I don't have whatever it is to fight.
Yeah,
because like I would not if my coach held a mirror in front of me. I looked like that. Like oh, dude, I'm too much of a hypochondriac at the end of the day. But
Dominic Cruz said it great in the commentary, just like so you want to be a fighter.
Yeah,
This is what you have to be ready for.
Cormier, I think you mean.
Cormier?
Yeah. But
I couldn't tell.
The only reason you can tell was Daniel Cormier.
I knew Daniel Cormier was doing commentary, but if the two of them talk at the same time, after a certain point, I may not know who's speaking.
Even though Cruz wasn't on the call last night, he still like texts in all the time. Which is kind of funny.
Ah, so yeah, it was Cormier the whole time, and I just thought it was Dominic Cruz.
But it was funny because Cormier, I love his commentary, man. Do you know that McMahon's after him to do commentary for the WWE?
Really?
Yeah, I think he'd be great at it too.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He would be fantastic.
I think.
And then of course you got to have some kind of like feud between him and Brock at some point.
Oh, and I'm sure
that's the long game of that.
Him
decision.
And Kane probably could do a little thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's weird how they
I see like Kane getting like jumped, and then Cormier like takes off his suit jacket behind the announcer's desk and runs in there.
Also, I'm now realizing that Cormier, for whatever reason, does kind of look like Jonathan Coachman.
He does. He looks like a big Jonathan.
Yeah,
Coachman.
like if the coach like got a lot shorter and a lot thicker, you'd have Daniel Cormier. But I immediately wanted to say I could imagine Daniel Cormier in like a Jonathan Coachman role. Then I realized, it's just because they look alike.
Yeah, there's some similarities.
But yeah, so the last fight I wanted to discuss that has already happened. We have some fights that are on the docket. Well, I guess actually two more because the main event of last night is worth discussing. But the return of McGregor.
Yeah.
That was a hell of a fight, man. It couldn't have gone better for the hype machine to get rolling again.
First time I've ever bet on a fight, and honestly, I bet on Cowboy.
How much? How much you bet?
$27 because I liked the number. It was not like a real like bet.
Now, did you do a true South Philly bet? Like, did you find a guy in the corner, or did you use like Bovada?
No, I just did it online.
Okay,
nothing
fucking
crazy.
wuss. Because you can get a bet where we live. You can get a bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you,
The thing is, like, I don't want to have to interact with those people for any longer than I have to out in the world.
I'm pretty sure South Philly still does numbers, which is hilarious. Because, like, the government does numbers. Like, they do numbers every night on TV.
Yeah.
But they still do numbers in South Philly. I'm fairly certain of it. I once had a cab driver in Baltimore who told me that he lives in Baltimore. He was driving Lyft in Baltimore, but he's a SEPTA bus driver. And he still had his SEPTA uniform on as he was driving the Lyft. And he was telling me about how you can still get numbers in South Philly.
So he lives in Baltimore or Philly?
He lives in Baltimore and is a SEPTA bus driver. I think Baltimore is like a significantly more blighted area.
I've heard such things.
So I think like working for whatever the transportation authority is in Baltimore, probably, I imagine the difference in benefits is pretty significant. And not to say that SEPTA has their shit together, because there's definitely some evidence that they do not. Although, I'll be honest with you, I've never had a... See, I'm a little bit spoiled because I came from D.C. I'm not from D.C., obviously, but I lived there for a year before I moved to Philly. And they have the Metro. That's what they call their subway stops.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Like, super recently renovated. The stations are in really good condition. The trains are always on time. The trains are really, like, clean. Just a really, really good experience. Whereas SEPTA's a little bit more grungy.
Little more grime.
Yeah.
Little more grime on those gears.
You gotta have your head on a swivel a little bit more.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think it's a fairly respectable public transportation option.
I think respectable might be a strong word there.
I think the one thing that blows my mind is the trolleys. Why are there still trolleys? Like, that doesn't make any... Like, just make more subways.
Just transportation in Philly as a whole is just such a mess. Just because there's a grid everywhere you go. Like, Philly street design is the definition of gridlock because it's just everything intersects and nobody gets anywhere.
One ways.
And then...
That was the biggest
too
adjustment
early in the morning for this
that I had to make moving to Philly, which is the amount of one ways.
Yeah.
But anyways, we have fights to discuss. But yeah.
Yes.
So it was a bummer because I think that fight effectively ended Cowboy's like the notoriety, not the notoriety side of his career, but that ended his big opportunity portion of his career.
Yeah. He was on you know what? He was in the limelight a bit, but he was losing a lot too.
Yeah,
like
I think
the limelight came his way, and he was getting fucked up, but he was still going. Like, he's still the guy who will show up anytime, anywhere. Like, he had that going for him. But
tell you what, man, a lot of really intelligent MMA analysts, Luke Thomas's of the world, Chuck Mindenhall has said this in times. Schaub says it. And I know some people will be like, intelligent MMA analyst Brandon Schaub. I don't know. I've always liked his analysis. There's some things you could, not like about him, but I've always liked his MMA analysis. He was in the fucking UFC, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, he's still a guy who's been there.
And he has always said that the biggest mistake that the UFC makes is not matchmaking correctly and spoiling their guys before they... Like, you want somebody to fight tomato cans for a while to get that big undefeated record. Like, that's how you build stars, is you do what boxing does.
Yeah.
You get guys to 42-0, and then the 42-0 guy can fight the other 42-0 guy, and you have a fucking giant blockbuster event. And MMA just misses that boat too often. And, with Conor coming back, the worst thing they could have done was have him fight Khabib.
Oh,
so he probably would have lost. Probably would have lost handily. But now, like, it even doing this affects his eventual ability to potentially beat Khabib. Because now, Conor's sort of the master of mental warfare. Like, when he was on his thing in the UFC, when he knocked out Eddie Alvarez and then went to boxing, I truly think that he could have beat anybody because his mystique was so high that guys were beaten before they even got in there with him.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's back there, but at least he's got the wheels a-turning. So now the rumor du jour is that he is going to fight Justin Gaethje. In that, if he beats Gaethje, they're going to do Khabib versus Conor, unless Tony wins, which, good God. For the love of all that is good and holy on this earth, please, Tony Ferguson, don't do any dumb shit.
Yeah.
And
Khabib, do not touch the fucking tiramisu.
Don't touch the tiramisu. You know, it's kind of... First of all, Tony Ferguson, I think, is clinically insane. He was wearing gloves to the fucking press conference. He was wearing sunglasses inside, which he always does, but was yelling at Khabib to take off his sunglasses. And Khabib was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you don't understand. He goes, I'm wearing glasses, but you're wearing glasses too. I can see through them. Like that's... And he thought somebody was a... didn't he think he thought his wife was a witch or something?
Yeah, that's what he thought she was a witch, and I think he like threatened her with a knife, maybe.
Well, that's the thing is like...
Something along that. He threatened her to some extent.
I'm not even sure that's CTE. I think that's just Tony Ferguson. I think he's just an eccentric dude.
That is mental illness. That is severe. Keep Joshua Fabia the fuck away from that man.
Oh, man. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. We have to cover that, too. But
we touched on it the last episode. I've looked into this gentleman since Corey introduced me to him. It's amazing that Diego, like even an experienced fighter who like knows his shit, can still buy into the absolute like highest level bullshido fucking making. Like, I saw this one video where like he's what was the school? He's the school of self-awareness.
Yeah,
or the school of self or something. That's his particular branch because commando bullshit Krav Maga was not enough for him, so he had to start his own version with a little bit more of the Tai Chi aspect to it. But he's like he's standing next to a guy with his foot on this girl's thigh. Like the girl is laying on a mat on the floor. Joshua Fabia is standing next to her, laying down with a foot on her thigh, looking at the guy and talking about the difference between a strike like this and a strike like this. But based on where his foot is sitting on this woman's thigh, and he's like, this is different because there's love here. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, man, he's speaking of eccentric. It's almost man, it's just a bummer because at the core of all this is probably some sort of biological brain issue that Diego Sanchez is having as a result of being competitive and fighting for too many years.
Yeah, but like on some level, you got like, if you know how to fight, like the weird like grab him by the wrist and just like pull it over here doesn't work. Like you have to know this. You know this because you've tried all of this shit out.
It's always the Krav Maga guys, man. You got to watch out for them. It's always the Krav Maga guys.
It's Joe Diamond all over again.
It's funny because I was talking to one of the coaches at Royal, the t-shirt I'm wearing, shout out, and Coach Matt, the BJJ coach, and he actually got a shout out in one of the recent Luke Thomas episodes, the live chats that he was doing. Somebody asked him what's the craziest fight he's ever seen live, and he actually said one of the fights that Coach Matt finished. He finished Matt Serra's brother Nick Serra. He finished him with leg kicks.
Wow.
So he kept kicking his leg. Nick Serra goes to his butt, does like a butt scoot, and pretends like he's trying to get him to come down to the ground and grapple with him.
Yeah.
Matt's a black belt too, though, so he would have probably been fine with doing that. But he's just kind of like scooting, and he wouldn't get up. Matt was like, I'm not coming to the ground. Like, I'm fucking you up on the feet. Get up.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't get up. So finally the ref's like, dude, you got to get up or the fight's over. And he's like, no, he won't come down. So like, all right, call it off.
Wow.
And the fight was officially DQ, refusal to get up from butt scoot. And
imagine having that on your record.
And here's a crazy thing. I'm trying to think of what the guy's name was. That was the same card as Kimbo versus the dude with pink hair.
Dada.
No. The white guy, pink hair, who knocked him out in 7 seconds.
Oh, shit.
Seth Petrozelli.
Okay.
Yes. That was the same fight card. I would think it was like, it was either Bodog Fight or Elite XC or whatever the hell it was called back in the day. But, yeah, that was
those weird corners of MMA history we don't really talk about anymore.
Nick Serra. Shout out to Nick Serra. I wonder what he's doing. Just scooting around. Just butt scooting around.
That's... Speaking of getting beaten by leg kicks, since I think that opens the door for...
We're doing... These segues are really coming together nice today.
Yeah. Last night, Yoel Romero, I love you. You're the soldier of God. But you cannot come out and puff your chest up and say, oh, he won't engage with me. He won't engage with me, when you were the one who kept backing off every time you had an opening.
Yeah.
Like, I understand, like, there's, you don't want to get caught coming in too quickly or anything, but my God, man, you got to try something.
Yeah,
He won those first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Like, he was very clearly winning those first 2 rounds.
Well, he didn't even necessarily lose the fight, right? But he didn't win it.
No.
Like, it was just an awful... It reminded me a lot of Woodley versus Wonder Boy. Like, on paper, man, that should have been a fucking battle. But it was terrible fights. Because both guys were, just kind of sit back on their heels a little bit, see what's presented to them, and counter-strike. Yeah. And when you think of all the crazy shit Yoel Romero ever does, it's off of his opponent's offense.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily the most aggressive guy in the world. That's why, also, too, I think, ironically enough, Dana White made the point that both of those guys always fight to their opponents. Like, Adesanya fought this way against Romero. He fought very passively against Anderson Silva and got critique. Yeah. But he was in a fucking war of wars with Kelvin Gastelum.
Yep.
So, look at Romero, same way. He fought Paulo Costa, and that was just chaos. Yep. But Costa is a guy who's fucking in his face, moving forward, pressing the attack. But then, they're just counter-strikers. And I think at the end of the day, if your entire offensive game plan is dependent upon reacting to what your opponent does, you have 2 guys going head-to-head who have that exact same philosophy, you're just not going to see a lot of action. So I hope they never make that fight again, just because I don't honestly think it would be any different.
No,
I think that's just how they fight each other.
I think to a certain extent, any kind of Romero doesn't. We were talking about it last night. Romero doesn't really wrestle like he could if he wanted to,
which is so strange. But anyways,
I think that if he had that in his back pocket, those leg kicks, his leg was like purple.
Oh yeah, he's not having a great day today.
So
I'd still rather be him than Joanna, but he's not having a fun day either.
Yeah, no, he is not doing so great. He's probably got his leg up on that 180-pound pit bull right now, using it as a footstool.
I think people often forget that this is an art form, right? As strange as that sounds, as hipster as that sounds, like, this is my art. Like, it is the martial arts for a reason, and there's a certain philosophy that each person has in order to express that art. It's almost like their own independent creative process, right? And when you think about what is the creative process for Adesanya to create his art, he needs an aggressive opponent to press him, and then he will find an opening.
No.
And Romero's on that same end of the spectrum in regards to how he needs to express his art form. So, I honestly, not 24 hours removed, but I don't know, 15, 16 hours removed from the fight, I'm a little less alarmed by it, and I just kind of understand it in that way. No. Like, I don't think either guy was being like timid, or I don't think there was necessarily fear involved in either guy. I mean, there's always a certain level of fear when you're fighting, but it's just, they both have a very similar principle that governs their entire fight philosophy and fight art form, and that's just not ever going to match up. Like, that's where we forget, like, you can make the greatest fight in the world on paper, but it really is a stylistic and artistic combination of 2 people, and it takes 2 to tango.
Yeah. And we're also, like, not in the era of just, like, the human cockfighting that the UFC once was. Like, that they are now, like, people are trying to win on points and all that stuff. Yeah. So you're going to see there's a little bit more strategic factor to it. But with that, you lose a little bit of the excitement.
I think also, too, we're coming to understand how brief an MMA career really is. I mean, you get 20 fights deep, and you are a vet.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas, I mean, you can see guys in boxing who have 80 amateur fights, and they're still 42-0 as a professional.
Yeah.
And you just can't do that in MMA. And I think also, boxing, I don't know what, I think maybe it's just an older sport. There's more people in the actual sort of pipeline. But for whatever reason, there seems to be a lot more, because I don't think boxing, I think you can make an argument that boxing is less healthy because you're just getting shots. I mean, maybe you're seeing less injuries. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, there's there's less ways you can get hurt.
Yeah, you're not going to tear an ACL in a boxing match.
Yeah.
99 times out of 100.
Yeah.
Now, the head trauma issue is probably ramped up a bit.
And the fact that they just keep standing guys up over and over again isn't doing anybody any favors either. I think that's you see a little bit less of the CTE and MMA just because like you can get hit on the ground.
Yeah,
you get knocked out and then you keep getting hit, but then that's it.
You could have 10 finishes in terms of you were finished 10 times, but yet you were never actually knocked out.
Yeah.
It could have been a TKO or, you were in a bad position. You could have tapped 10 times even. So, I agree with you. And that shows you how ignorant the sort of the common fan is as it relates to the actual consequences of violence. Because, for whatever reason, people think that, if you take the gloves away, that is more brutal. No. Actually, putting the gloves on is increasing the amount of brain damage, likely, because they're able to throw these you can't throw a punch with a bare fist. Like, if you're in a street fight type of situation, you don't want to throw a closed fist strike. You want to Bas-Rutten it, right?
Yeah.
You want to have that, sort of open base of your palm strike. Because guess what? There's a lot of open space right here, and something going to break. Take it from a dude who has a boxer's fracture right here. It's pretty easy to break your hand, especially if you're shit-faced. Really
Which
easy
is
to
when
do.
a lot of people get into bare-knuckle fights on the street.
With a wall. Yeah.
Or with walls.
And lost 0-1 in my blackout MMA career. I didn't throw any kicks, and I didn't wrestle him.
Yeah,
but his defense, man, great defense.
Well, did you penetrate?
It had already been. Actually, I was in my buddy's. It was New Year's Eve, and I was in my buddy. So I was home in Scranton, Scranton area. I'm not from Scranton particularly, but that's like the closest civilization. That's a sad state of affairs when Scranton is your closest civilization. But anyways, that's where we were, and we were all in college at the time, and one of my buddies, Eric, he went to the University of Scranton, and he had a college house downtown in Scranton, so we were all like, hey, he's got a house open. Let's throw a rager in your empty fucking house, because also we're never going to get caught because no one's there. It's New Year's. Classes are not in session. The place is empty. So, and the third floor of his house, there was such a big hole in the wall because they all just got drunk and punched it.
So there's literally a punching wall.
Well, no, even worse. So, yes, there was a punching wall, but so him and his buddies lived on the left side townhouse, and another group of his buddies lived on the right side. So they punched a door in between both. That was the goal. They started punching the wall because they just wanted a door to go between their houses.
Okay.
So they did not get their security deposits back.
No, definitely not.
So
definitely not getting that back.
But
that probably cost more than the security deposit.
But yeah, I threw just this fucking right hand from hell, and I immediately was. I don't know. I was drunk, so I can't do the best job explaining what it felt like. But all I could tell you is that when you break, have you ever broken a bone?
No. When
you break a bone, you just have this horrific message that's sent to your brain that's not even pain, just like something is wrong. Something in the operating system is broken.
That's kind of what I always pictured it feeling like. Just like this, you don't necessarily feel like you feel some pain, but more so is that like this isn't going to work right. This doesn't function the same now.
This is no longer an option for you.
Yeah.
And it was painful enough too, or just startling enough that it brought me out of my blackout. So that gives you another indication. But then I kept.
That's a scary thing to wake up to.
I kept drinking. So that night, I think my dad said he found me. I don't know if he found me or I can't remember because, again, alcohol, haze, the whole situation's hazy. But I remember I was on my knees in this weird, crouching position, and I had just gotten an iPad. It was my dad's old one. He used to get one for work, And I was always like, come on, get a new one, because I knew he'd give me his old one. So I had this old iPad. It was like a shitty first gen. I still have it, actually. Yeah. So I was like on my knees with a broken hand. So I was like, the broken hand was like clutched to my chest. Actually, my right hand was broken, so I must have been this way. I was scrolled, so on my knees, broken hand clutched to my chest, swiping through things on the iPad, peeing. All at the same time. Naked, by the way. That was the position that I was discovered in, to the best of my knowledge.
Where were you?
In my room.
You were in your room,
in my
peeing
room.
on the floor.
And I had this really cheap chain wallet at the time, because I used to get so shit-faced I would have to chain my wallet to myself. Otherwise, I would lose it. So, like, people
not
would make...
even purely for functionality. Not to look cool, just because you knew.
People would give me shit about my chain wallet all the time. I'd be like, you don't understand. Like, this is very practical, given the circumstances. Well, I used to have to do all kinds of crazy stuff. I would have to only bring cash, because if I had a debit card, I would just spend all of the money that I had.
Yeah.
And, like, that wasn't, that was a situation, too, where it was like, I didn't have credit cards. I didn't know how all that worked. So, literally, my debit card was just all of my money. So if I lost that, or I had access to all of my money at all times. It was a dreadful, dreadful setup. Just thinking about that era gives me just profound levels of anxiety. Man, but anyways, fuck. Oh, the chain wallet. Yes. So it was like a cheaply made chain wallet I bought on Amazon. So like it had a metal chain, but like it wasn't really metal. It was probably like some thick plastic with like that fake metal coating. But I pissed all over it. And something about that weird, like, zinc oxide coating interacting with my piss actually caused the chain to, like, melt into my wooden floor.
What?
To the point where I actually had to, like tear it out of the floor the next morning.
What kind of chemistry set shit are you working with?
I don't know. God only knows that I was pissing out at that fucking time. Just Everclear.
You got so drunk you discovered alchemy.
Yeah, I think I was essentially pissing like 91% isopropyl alcohol at that point. So maybe that was, or probably some sort of variant of like hydrofluoric acid was coming out of me. Anyways, that's drunk stories with Corey.
So yeah, don't punch with an open, uncovered hand.
That was a brutal. That was a morning, and I woke up and I was just like, wow, this isn't worth it anymore.
Yeah.
But that was a long time ago. That was probably 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Man, time flies. We're getting old, man. I was talking to my buddy on Xbox the other day. We were playing PUBG, and I was making fun of him I met this dude in 6th grade. Still in touch with him. And I was thinking the other day, he's a very artistic guy, my buddy Chris. I've actually 2 Chris's, one of which was on this podcast. That was Big Chris. This is medium-sized Chris. He
average Chris.
He's a very artistic guy. Like, you wouldn't describe him as a jock in any way, shape, or form, but I always give him shit because when he was like in like 6th grade, he still played like he played like midget football and used to wear this shirt that said "Give blood, play football." Which for him to wear that shirt is like, no. Like that's the last human you would expect to wear it. So I always give him shit.
Yeah.
And that was in 6th grade. So then we're talking about it, and I was like, "Holy shit, dude!" He's like, "What?" I was like, "That was 17 years ago."
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that starts sinking in.
Yeah. Strange.
How old are you?
28.
28. Okay.
Are you 29 yet?
I am 29. Ooh. I turned 29 back in January, so the countdown has begun.
Yeah. How'd you feel at 29? What kind of did you feel like a stress to like finish out your 20s strong?
Not really. I would say like in 28, when I turned 28, that kind of went away a bit. Yeah. I think 27 was more like where I had like the stress of like, yeah, I gotta fucking make this shit count. And blah, blah, blah. Like there's still a little bit of that to some extent, but like 29 is like realizing like, oh, physically you're not gonna be able to do all the same shit soon. Like you can keep going, but you're gonna have to make some adjustments here. Some of those like little like aches and pains in certain spots, like they're not gonna like go away really.
Yeah,
they're gonna hang in there a little bit more.
Isn't it funny that 26 felt so old at one time, but now when you meet someone who's 26, you're like, fucking moron.
Yeah. Yeah, no, because Sydney Gant, who was on the podcast here, described it. I think it was Sydney. It was like a group discussion we were having, and they were saying like until you don't really like solidify who you are up until like 26, 27.
Yeah.
Like you're still like running around like a crazy person, and your brain is going in all these circles and all this shit until you get like through your early 20s, and then like it just kind of settles down. Yeah,
I'd say 27 for me was kind of when it started to. Getting sober really is a strange, sort of. What's the kink in the cog or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, what am I looking for? What's the fly in the ointment? Does that work?
Yeah.
It's like a variable.
That makes more sense than kink in the cog. I don't think a cog can really have a kink in it.
Well, it's a cog and it turns and it kinks and it can't turn.
That's not how a cog works.
Fair enough. I immediately just thought of Gears of War, Marcus Phoenix, cog, Coalition of Ordered Governments.
Oh,
not a Gears of War guy.
Gears of War.
Come on, man! You got to at least once in your life.
I was a PlayStation guy, brah.
Yeah, once in your life, you have to cut an alien in half with your what do they call them? What's the your chainsaw bayonet? Once in your life, you need to cut an alien in half with a chainsaw bayonet.
Yeah, chainsaws actually. This is slightly off topic, but we're already off topic.
Yeah,
a chainsaw is actually a horribly ineffective weapon when you break down how it actually works.
Oh yeah, especially if you've used a chainsaw. Like it's not like you can just free. Like it's difficult to control. It's a powerful machine.
At the moment you'll fuck somebody up with a chainsaw. Don't get me wrong, but you're not like like Texas Chainsaw Massacre style, like chasing teenagers through the woods. Like you're gonna get like a person, and you're not gonna cut through them so much as just like into them. Yeah, and then it'll just you'll just be like making.
You'd still have to, you'd have to do some work to really, finish the job there.
You're not getting through bone with that.
No. Anyways, getting sober. Yeah, man, it's getting sober. The only way I can describe it, and I only stopped drinking, so it's not like I imagine this is only amplified if someone had other sort of chemical dependencies that they were dealing with. But you feel like a baby. Like you have to do everything again for the first time to see how you really feel about it. And that definitely heightened my awareness of that. I think that was when I really started to figure out who I was, because even that decision was based off of me. Like that was just like, I don't want to do this anymore, and having to reconstruct and re-examine a lot of different components that are in your life, because if your only social exposure is basically how do I get out and drink, there's a lot of construct there that needs now to be deconstructed, and there are certain elements of your life that are only there to service the drinking. And that definitely, I'd say that was probably, I think that was like 25, 26 that I quit. Right? No, I think I was 24 when I quit. Anyways.
No, you weren't 24. I think it was like 25. 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it was 25.
We weren't, I don't think we were working together when we were 24.
I don't know, man. We're
How
getting
long
up
we
there.
Own each other?
Where are we? I moved to Philly in October of 2014, which means I would have started working at the gym in July of 2015.
Yeah.
So that we would have encountered each other.
You were 24 then, so I think
July of 2015, I would have just turned 25. Yeah.
Okay.
Because in July of 2021, I'll turn 30.
Yeah.
So no, it's 24, right? I don't know.
No, because you were still drinking when we met, because that's where
that's where the
it was a fucking draw.
Also the dumpster pool.
Yes,
that was a great day.
Yeah,
man, what a day that was. When there was for the 99.9% of the population who has no idea of what exactly we're talking about here. There was a famous block party up in the Fishtown neighborhood of Philadelphia. Wasn't it called like the Cedar Street block party?
Maybe. I'm not sure what the exact name of it was.
But man, these motherfuckers threw a party, man.
Yeah.
That was no joke. And there was a pool at the party, and it was just a dumpster that they had tarped up and filled up with fire hydrants. So they uncorked a fire hydrant to fill this pool, and I'm pretty sure, I can't confirm, but I may or may not have been the root cause of what became a national story.
Yeah.
Because I spent a lot of time in that dumpster pool throughout the day.
Yeah. Screaming at a SEPTA bus that couldn't get through because the dumpster's in the road.
And banging on the side of the bus, yelling, "You can't fit."
But also, like, what's confusing to me is, like, was the block party still going and the bus just came through the block party? Like, how did a bus get there?
I think the block party probably had some sort of, like, street closure thing from the city.
Yeah.
But that probably only went until, like, 8
Yeah.
p.m. or something, and this is probably 1 a.m.
Yeah.
So
it was just you in the dumpster pool at this point.
Yeah,
just by yourself, blacked out.
Yep. Yeah, that was probably the case. But hell, I had a great time.
Yeah, it was a good day.
That was a very good day. But you got to get going.
I do. We're gonna have to cut this one short.
This is a briefie, but it's okay.
We got caught up in the world of fighting and
mixing alcoholic piss with zinc based coatings.
It could change the world.
If you want to endeavor within the field of alchemy, get real drunk, find a cheap chain wallet on Amazon, and piss on it. See what happens. Report back. Email your findings to whitebeltsandlife@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Oh, we got another shitty email.
We did.
Yeah, we get a lot of them.
Oh boy.
This one, I'll read it next time, but it was from the Illuminati.
Fucking
yeah.
Hey, it's about time.
It was from the Illuminati asking us if we would like to join.
Awesome.
So we'll kick that around next time we fire up the mics.
Crack this puppy open.
All right. Any final words for the people?
That is it. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Godspeed.